Hi, Garland Nixon here for a brief video in the afternoon. Just thought it'd be a good time to talk about an issue that I've heard several questions about today, and that I've heard. I saw a couple of reports of basically articles asking the question: how did we get to Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? You know, I saw there's a meme going around on Facebook that says 316 million people. How did we get to these two? What does that say about America? What does it say about America that we ended up with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as our respective nominees, right? So we'll start with Hillary Clinton. What does it say about America that Hillary Clinton is the nominee? Well, let's start here. How did she become the nominee? Was Hillary Clinton elected? Was she nominated in a democratic process? Certainly not. So it doesn't say anything about our electorate. It doesn't say anything about the actual people who are voting. Here's what Hillary Clinton being the nominee says, because that meme, how did they become, how did we get to these two, implies or in some way infers that they were both brought in a democratic manner, in a democratic process, and that the blame should be laid at the feet of the citizens, right? But that's not the case at all with Hillary Clinton, is it? What happened with Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton was selected. She was not nominated. She was appointed. She was coronated. Whatever euphemism, whatever word you want to use, she was not elected. Had the process been democratic, she would not have been the nominee. It would have been Bernie Sanders. Clearly, Bernie was without the help of the DNC, he beats her. He got 46% of the vote. And everything that could have possibly been done by the DNC to hand it over to Hillary was done, up to and including some levels of voter fraud. We don't have the evidence for voter fraud. But then again, we didn't have the evidence that the DNC was deliberately handing Hillary the campaign until such time as WikiLeaks came out and gave us the evidence. So I suspect that there's just as much evidence that voter purging, that voter fraud, that voter suppression happened, as there was that the campaign, the DNC, acted on behalf and acted of the Clinton campaign and acted simply as an arm of the Clinton campaign. So whenever someone says, "How did we get to this?" What does it say about the American people? It doesn't say anything about the American people as far as Hillary is concerned. It says something about the Democratic Party, that it is owned by corporations. Those corporations gave them lots of money. They told them who they wanted. In fact, they probably didn't even have to tell them. Let's be honest. Did they really have? Do you really have to tell Debbie Wasserman Schultz and her group that you wanted Hillary? They knew that. So clearly, Hillary Clinton, her, whatever we want to call it, her place as the nominee doesn't say anything about the voters in the Democratic Party. It only speaks about the process that is no longer democratic. One of the things it says is that we don't live in a democracy. So now let's move over to Donald Trump. How did Donald Trump become the nominee for the Republican Party? Well, let's start here. What we're told is we have to be afraid of Donald Trump. My gosh, he's the most horrible thing ever, right? I'm not making excuses for Donald Trump, but I'll say this. Let's start here. The Clintons, the Bloombergs, all of the powerful people in New York City and around have been hanging out with Donald Trump, palsy-wowsy with Donald Trump. He was their best friend, going to each other's weddings and going to hanging out, playing golf, you name it, with Trump. For I don't know how long. Now all of a sudden he's some kind of a sociopathic killer. I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm saying that you were hanging out with a sociopathic killer. He was your buddy, and now all of a sudden he's too horrible for us to even imagine. In fact, there is evidence that Bill Clinton, in fact, that Donald Trump consulted Bill Clinton before running, and Bill Clinton told him to run. That has been reported. You can look it up. Whether or not it's true, I don't know, but it's been reported. And to my knowledge, I have yet to hear the Clintons or the Trumps deny it. Let's move forward with that. So how did Trump become the nominee? Donald Trump is the worst guy. He's scary. He's horrible. This is all about Donald Trump. Let's remember something. If Donald Trump had not been the nominee, the fact of the matter is we would have got something considerably worse, which is Ted Cruz. So we got Donald Trump, which is bad enough. If Donald Trump doesn't win, we'd have got Ted Cruz. Why is that? Why is it that the Republican voters voted in a Donald Trump, or if he'd have dropped out, they would have clearly voted in a Ted Cruz? And who are they looking at behind that? Crazy people like Ben Carson. Why? Why did they want some nutcase? Here's why. Because after many years of the policies of the neoliberal global elite, of the big money people, of the corporatists, the standard of living for the average person has dropped so long that people are turning against the establishment. Even the Republicans. Now, keep in mind something. When the Democrats feel that they want change, they tend to go to the left. They tend to want someone who is going to come in and who's going to change through policies, right? When conservatives, who think totally differently than they do, the brains work differently. There are a lot of things, there's a lot of science to prove that. But what do conservatives look for? They look for a right-wing strongman. Conservatives, you'll hear if something happens, if something goes bad and there's a conservative running things, they always say things like this: heads will roll. You know, they always look for the strong man. They always look for the person that's going to come in and he's going to punish people and he's going to hold the people accountable and he's going to crush things and everybody's going to do the father figure, right? The dominant paternal father figure. That's the paradigm that conservatives look for. So when things went bad, when they got crapped on, just like we got crapped on by these powerful corporate elites worldwide, quite naturally, the conservative worldview is going to look for a right-wing strongman. That's all Donald Trump is. He's filling a need. Donald Trump, our corporate media system is saying that Donald Trump is the bad guy, that he came in, he's some horrible disease that's come in and infected our pure and clear political machine. When the fact of the matter is, he's just a symptom. He's not the disease. The real disease is that neoliberal policies for the past 35 years have wiped out the middle class, mostly wiped out a lot of the working class, and now everyone's generally poor or working poorer instead of middle class and working class. And now the reaction that's happening on the right is to look for a right-wing strongman, whoever it would be. And see, what they don't, when they talk about how bad Donald Trump is, even then, what's not said is the guy that was in second place behind him is worse. And that's Ted Cruz. Who wouldn't, let's face it, who wouldn't take Donald Trump over Ted Cruz? Not that we'd want either one of them, but the fact of the matter is, so that's why the whole Donald Trump is bad ignores the dynamics that created an environment in which Donald Trump would be the most attractive candidate for conservatives. And on the other side, the fact that Hillary Clinton is a term that I use guardedly, the nominee, ignores the fact that it's not the voters who are to blame for her being a nominee. It's corporate, it's Wall Street, it's corporations, and now, of course, the neocons and everybody's joining in because here's the fact of the matter. Hillary is, in fact, the most conservative in many ways of the two candidates. So why wouldn't the conservatives? I've said this. I can understand why a conservative would vote for Hillary, but I certainly can't understand why a progressive ever would. And also, another one of my predictions is coming true. I said before the convention, the last time you will ever hear Hillary Clinton say, I am a progressive that gets things done, is before she gets the nomination. Once that nomination is secured, you will never hear the word progressive out of Hillary's mouth unless it's something like, I hate progressives, we should jail progressives, all progressives should be in detention camps. Well, she'll happily say something like that. But the idea that she's a progressive, you watch when she gets into the debates. At some point, I'm sure somebody's going to ask her, are you a progressive who gets things done? Hillary, well, you know how she does with questions. She doesn't answer. So she's going to say, well, I get things done. They're going to say, are you a progressive that gets things done? Well, you know, I work hard and I get things done and I'm a Democrat all my life. She'll do everything she can to avoid the question. But for sure, Hillary has she has stopped faking. Well, excuse me, she didn't even fake that she was a progressive. She just used the word progressive. That's all she did. In no way, shape, or form in any of her policies did she pretend to be a progressive. She just used the word progressive with a caveat, with a disclaimer that gets things done, which in fact inferred that progressives can't possibly get things done because, let's face it, only most of Americans want progressive policies. So that's that is what I'm saying is my answer to those who say, how did we get here? How did we get here? corporations installed a nominee for the Democrats. A, corporations installed a nominee for the Democrats. And as far as Trump is concerned, since the second guy, Ted Cruz, they weren't happy with him, they picked number one, who was Donald Trump. And anytime someone says, well, how'd Donald Trump come? Don't forget, number two was Ted Cruz. Actually, probably a little better off with Donald Trump than you are Ted Cruz. You talk about a guy that'll push the button. This guy's nuts. So that's where we are. Thanks a lot. Wanted to take a couple minutes to talk to you. Garland Nixon's the name, on every Friday from 6 to 7 p.m. WPFW 89.3 FM here in Washington, D.C. WPFWFM.org online.